It's almost like you learn at a very early age. If I'm authentically me, I don't fit in. I'm not,
Exactly.
right? I'm not accepted. So I have to like shape shift into a different version of me because that's the only way I'll receive love.
Growing up with a difficult father who was very explosive and he had this pressure, he always taught us if we like what he likes, then we are loved.
Being a mom now and knowing I'm a black sheep, having a child that's just like me, I celebrate him. I celebrate he's got opinions, he's got thoughts, he's got strong will.
Welcome everyone to our podcast. I'm Monika and Tschuggnall,
And I'm Erin Miller. We're so excited you're here today.
and on this podcast, we dive deep into all things black sheep. So if you identify as a black sheep, congratulations, you're at the right place.
So whether you're looking for practical tips, honest perspective, or just a timeout, we're here for it.
And each week, we will bring you conversations that are raw, honest, and fun. We bring expert insights, personal stories, and practical advice.
And definitely a lot of laughs along the way. We want this to feel like a chat amongst friends because that's exactly what it is.
So grab your favorite drink, get comfortable, and join us as we explore everything about black sheep and good girls in our very first episode. And we are super excited to dive into this episode of our podcast.
Woohoo!
Yay! So, Erin, it's so great. How are you?
I'm good. I'm super excited to be here, especially talking about our favorite topic, black sheep. I know you and I have spoken a lot about how we both identify as the black sheep of our family. Um, but it transcends beyond that, right? You can be a black sheep in society, which I also identify as, right? A nonconformist, somebody who doesn't want to go with the flow, but rather kind of march to the beat of my own drum. That's you too, right?
Right, totally. Yes, black sheep in any sense. Totally different, which now, as an adult and having done so much work on myself, deep dive, dive deep work and everything else, I'm super happy about it. And I'm glad that I'm a black sheep, but wasn't always like that, right? I
Ah,
think it's normal if you are different or if you feel different as a child. No child likes that because as a child, we all want to be to fit in
yeah.
order to feel
Mhm.
like that's our family, that's where we belong. And if you don't feel that we belong, it's a heartbreak, right?
Absolutely. How do you think, in your opinion, how do you think being the black sheep as a young person follows you into adulthood?
Mm. Well, in my case, it was I started off being the good girl, and then I
Mhm.
became the black sheep. This being said, I always felt different in my family
Mm.
because I was thinking differently. I didn't like the same things. And growing up with a difficult father who was very explosive and he had this pressure, he always taught us if we like what he likes, then we are loved. And if we dislike or if we like something else, then we are not. And in my case, I was often the one I didn't like that. Didn't like to go to church. Didn't like these people there. Didn't like the music he was listening to. And I felt different equals wrong. And that's what
Mm.
I learned as a child. So that's why it was so painful that I needed to become the good girl. I kept everything like the real me, the authentic me was hidden. And I was the good girl, like whatever I thought would make him love me. And it was
Ah,
later only when this good girl didn't work anymore and um I had my first boyfriend who was a total rebel.
mhm.
Hippie, and he didn't go to school and all of that when I was 15. And I was like, oh wow, that's actually interesting. How can he do that? Like maybe that's a good thing. And that was like I unleashed the black
Yeah.
sheep at that time. That's what I see. What about you? How did it go in your case? How was it?
I was just that classic kid. It didn't matter what either one of my parents did. Like, I think I came out of the womb super, super curious. Like, that's that's who I am. Always asking questions. God bless my poor mother. Um, but I was absolutely the kid that, they would say, "Oh, Erin, don't do this." And the first thing out of my mouth would be, "Why not?" Because I wanted to know, of course, when you're raised in a in a military family with a Marine for a father, pushing back doesn't work, right? So there is a lot of turbulence in my house. And I question everything, which again, a lot of nonconformists do that, right? Um, it's interesting though that you said that, you had to go from your authentic self into the good girl, right? It's almost like you learn at a very early age, if I'm authentically me, I don't fit in. I'm not,
Exactly.
right? I'm not accepted. So I have to like shape shift into a different version of me because that's the only way I'll receive love. And that's so fucking sad. It's so, so sad, right? I know that you and I are both therapists and coaches and we see this all the time. I, there is Gabor Mate, he talks a lot about how when you do that to children, like when you tell them, "Oh, it's not okay to be angry. It's not okay to have, to push back. It's not okay to be a certain way or act a certain way." You're literally teaching them that they're not accepted as they are. So we do this, we suppress, we suppress, we suppress. And when you learn that at a very young age, right? Because that little brain has known wisdom, in the younger years. Next thing you know, you're a full blown adult and you are still shape shifting in order to be accepted. The problem is that how are you ever going to have a real amazing relationship, especially a romantic relationship, when your number one talent is to conform, to be accepted by the person in front of you? They don't really know you.
Exactly.
Oh,
The only thing they know is the mask you're wearing. And
yes,
this is the thing. And I love what you said about Gabor. I love all his content and what he's saying. When we get this message, like when you're angry or when you're loud or when you're sad or when you're upset, that's wrong. But when you're
right.
the good girl and when you have good grades, that's the key thing. Like good grades equals good girl. Bad grades equals bad girl, but not for the grades. Like in general, they get the message that you're a bad person. And this is the message I also got. So exactly, you don't as a child, I love what you said. As a child, you don't have the choice. You don't have the wisdom yet that
Right.
to differentiate between is this true or not. It's just like whatever a child gets told, that's reality for
Hmm.
them. And that's it.
Absolutely.
They don't question, even if you are like you, even if you ask a lot of questions, it's just like not, they are not, that's not their capacity to question what everyone around them is doing. And yeah, so
Do
this,
you
that's,
know, I'm 45 years old and my mother said this last week in my kitchen. I don't know what we were talking about, but it hit me. She said something like, she was talking about my childhood and my whole family jokes about how much of a handful I was to raise, which, like, but kind of not funny, but whatever. But she was saying how we have a child, or she is best friends with this woman who, since I was a baby. And she was saying that, this family friend looked at her one day and she said, "You're not raising Erin. You're learning how you're handling her, right? That this is a young lady who needs to be handled." And I was like, my God, right? That's a gift, right? I
oh,
just and I think especially being now a mom myself, like my mom used to always say to me, she's like, "I pray every day to God that He is going to give you a child that's as difficult as you were so that you can experience it for yourself. He did. My son is just like me, but it's so different now being, and I love to get your perspective being a mom now and knowing I'm a black sheep, having a child that's just like me. I celebrate him. I celebrate he's got opinions, he's got thoughts, he's got strong will. I celebrate that. I don't know in your household, but when I would be authentically me, a lot of times it was met with punishment.
Of course.
And that never worked. It didn't work for me. Did it work for you?
No, of course. When it worked in the sense that I had to shut down because I didn't have the tools what to do else. Also, I was a child before. My mom was super overwhelmed either. There was no space to talk about things. I was the unproblematic child doing my
No.
stuff, but within I was like always a little bit the outsider. And then it's so funny what you say that your mom said about you, because this is what my mom also said to me. You will look when you want to have a child, then you will see how it is. And although my first 14 years I became then the good girl, but then from 15 on, it was like, woohoo. So I had to just do everything which I missed. I had to do then. And I, what they said, I was a difficult teenager. What I say, I was coming to myself. I was not saying yes to everything, and I was not trying to do. I was just experimenting, and I was a normal teenager and trying things out. And when I was pregnant, for me, it was clear that I didn't want my son to do things I did because I was this good girl, and I didn't want him to be this white sheep,
Yeah.
like doing whatever he gets told. And like, to be honest, most people are drilled to become that. They learn that it's cool. You don't ask, you don't question, you just do. And if you ask why, then I say, because I tell you, this is how my school also was. It wasn't wishful think for themselves or for myself. And they did it. I didn't, at the end, I couldn't think about what I really liked. There was always like, can you please ask me what's written in the book on page 152? Because this I can tell you, but not my opinion. So when I was pregnant, I really knew so everything, anything that I could do, that my child is not like that he thinks for himself, that he is authentic, and I will celebrate every time he does. And indeed, there were a lot of things, even since kindergarten, when teachers tell him do this and that, and it was like, why are you doing this? No, I mean, I don't like this. And luckily,
I
he was in good schools at that time. We were in Dubai, and there was really a great school, and they were very amazing, amazing teachers. So he always got supported in that, and I also celebrated him. And now also he attends courses like negotiation and all these things, um, problem solving, critical thinking. This is what I want my child to know. And does it make the job as a mom easy? Really? But it's worth everything, because I took anything that he is not like this white sheep, like doing everything because he's old, not knowing what to do. Like, I was there for a long time. And then I stopped. And then I experimented. Then I had to relearn how it is to be me. What does it mean to be authentic? And when
yeah.
see him and he's like arguing with me about a little tiny task, of course, it can be annoying, but I'm so grateful at the end, as I'm like, yes, he's not the people pleaser that I was. He's not doing this. He's just doing what he wants. And if he doesn't want, he doesn't do it.
I know Kingston is like an expert negotiator. And I'm like, I don't know whether to be terrified or really proud of you right now. But you said something really, really interesting. And I want to hit on it because this is like such a pain point for me. And I'm sure it's going to resonate with a lot of people listening. is our education system. Our education system is broken. And to your point, it absolutely packages kids based on age, not by potential, not by natural curiosity and ability, right? And it tells them you need to sit in this box that we've created. You need to be put in this mold that we've created in order to be a good citizen of the world. To your point, it's dulling creativity. It's making kids lack the ability to critical think, right? It's screwed up. It's screwed up. And I know we were just saying how like you were a young adult. You didn't know who you were. You didn't know who you were because from the time you were born until you were completely on your own in the world, you were told this is what success looks like. This
That's
is
right.
what a good girl looks like. This is how you do it. That's insane. What are we really teaching our kids? The whole society. I saw a meme once and I love it. And it's so true. It says society and it says be yourself. And then underneath it says society. No, not like that.
I love it. Yeah, but that's really, I totally agree with everything you said. And this is the thing. And I even worked with a boy recently. He came to me, well, his mom came to me. He is also 11, like our kids are. And she said, when he has so many troubles, he just struggles in school, and he has ADHD, and he has ADD, and so many other things, and he just needs help. And the first time I saw this boy, I was surprised because what I was told was that he has a lot of problems. He cannot concentrate. He cannot focus. He struggles. So I talked to him and I said, why are you here? What do you want to get out of that? And he said, well, I want to concentrate. I want to be able to focus. And I said, so you can't concentrate? And he said, no. And I said, why do you want to do this? And then he said, because I want to be good at school. And I asked him, why do you want to be good at school? And then he looked at his mom. Then he looked at me. And then he said, well, so that I get a good job. And I was talking to him the whole hour and explaining him about the rules of the mind and how our mind works, and that everyone is different, and some people have brains who are slower, some people have brains who are fast, and his brain is super fast, so he has superpower. And he was listening to me, and sometimes he was drawing or making even notes. He was 11, a whole hour without fidgeting around, without doing anything. And after the hour, I said, well, wait a minute. You told me that you cannot concentrate and you cannot focus. Now we are sitting here for 1 hour and you were listening to me so well. And you even draw some things and you got everything I said. Are you sure that you cannot concentrate? And then he was looking at the time and he was like looking at me, and then he was smiling and he was jumping around and said, no, no, Mama, I can concentrate. I can do this. That's it. So what we did in the following sessions was just like, I tried to make him clear nothing is wrong with you, little boy. You're just gorgeous. You're just so smart. And what I didn't say, because it was not the right setting, is what I said, what I knew inside, he just didn't fit in because he was smarter than the average. He was smarter than all the other kids in his class. He was faster. And what happens with kids with ADHD or all these labels we give them today, especially ADHD, it's just when they get a question asked, they don't have one answer, but they have 100. And then they have to choose. And then it's super fast. So I think we have to stop giving them the labels and the sticker on their head like something's wrong with you.
And the medication.
Oh, well, yes, of course, because then something is wrong. And then they have to take medications for ADHD. And because they take medications for ADHD, they need afterwards medications for depression.
Mind boggling. And even if it's just like from a biological standpoint, right? I have to geek out because I'm a scientist, right? But from a biological standpoint, we are pack animals. We are pack animals. We were not designed to sit still all day. Look at, I mean, we're hunters and gatherers. Like we were never designed to be stagnant and just sitting and learning all day at a desk for 8 hours a day. We weren't created that way. And yet, somebody up in the ivory tower said, no, this is how you do it. This is how we're going to contain all these kids, right? Even though it goes against our biological makeup, how we were created. And then the kids that don't comply, to your point, we're going to label them and we're going to give them special classes. Do you know my brother had he has learning disabilities. And so he was labeled right out of the gate. They put him in a special classroom. Um it's like a trailer that was outside the regular school because they didn't have the room. And so when he used to have to walk to his special classroom, the kids would spit at him and they would call him names, right? Horrifying. Horrifying. P.S. My brother is brilliant, like next level brilliant. He can literally, case in point, he rebuilt a 64 Thunderbird from scratch at 17 years old. And it won all these awards from scratch. My dad would just literally have somebody come in, a mechanic come in and be like, okay, check the electrical. And the guy would be like, this is perfect. How did this kid do this? Come in and check like all these different systems. Brilliant. But he didn't learn the same way the other kids did, right? Unbelievable. But yes, label black sheep at school, right? It's black sheep's not always just family, right? And you know, black sheep of society. I don't know about you, but I love black sheep of society. Of society. I love the disruptors and the nonconformists. I love people that push back. Because I
Well,
honestly,
it's worse.
yeah, in my opinion, I feel like a lot of the world we live in right now is going in the wrong direction. Personal opinion. Um, so I
But
think
yes,
that
and we see it. We see it with the people who come to us, right? And they're full of anxiety, depression. They don't know who they are. Well,
because they've had sheep shift, right? Their whole life. I think being a black sheep is really a badge of honor, truly. It's like,
exactly. This is what I love, and I love also this saying, like when there's no black sheep, there's just white sheep and colorful sheep. So this I find this cute. It's just like yes, I mean it's boring to
right,
be the
I'll
one.
take well, yeah, let's be colorful all day long. Black, yellow, purple, red, who cares? But yeah, I love Dr. Seuss. In one of his books, I can't remember which one it says. He's got a quote in there. It says, "Why blend in when you were born to stand out?"
I love it. Yes, and that's true. I mean now that's it doesn't matter from which perspective you look at it, but even if you take a spiritual um point of view there, if we if we believe that we come from universe or God or call it whatever you want, then and we are all different. That's a fact. There is no two people the same, not even twins. Then it has a reason. When we come from the universe or God and we all different, it's a reason. It's the reason that we then try to work against it and try to make us all equal. I mean, we are equal, but the same. Like look the same, be the same, learn the same, do the same. If we all would have the same talents and would be the same good in the same things, like they want us to be at school, then we would all do the same things. There would be nothing new. There would be nothing. We would never do what we are meant to do.
Now,
And
I once heard an analogy of like, to your point, it was like, can you imagine if a garden only had one flower, one type of flower? It wouldn't be a garden anymore.
no. And
It
by
would
the way,
just
it would die. And also even a forest. If the trees, if they're different trees, I don't know a lot about that, but I know as much as if there is only the same tree next to each other, then the tree will die. They need the diversity, the different things to grow because they take and give from each other. And in
Yeah.
our world, it's the same, I believe. I mean, some people are good, like your brother, he was a genius, or he is a genius. He built like, oh my God. And if everyone would be like that, well, it would not be good. But some are
Right.
like that. But some are better in writing, and some are better in, I don't know, just thinking. And some are better in building something else, building houses, and some are better in this and that. And then the next question is, how do we know in what we are good at? Because I didn't know what I wanted to do because I was so trained to do whatever I am told to do. And the answer to that I found for myself and for many other people I work with is just first you have to rediscover who you are, and you do the things you like. And you even know what you like and what you don't like, because this is an indicator. What you naturally like is probably leading you to your passion, probably leading you to your. There's a reason why you like some things and why you don't like some things. You go to what you like. You like more left or right? Okay, then you go, that's this way. Then another decision, this or that. Well, follow your heart, listen inside. And that's, I don't know about you, but for my clients, the most difficult question there is what do you want?
Mm.
Like it was for me.
I I think that and the question of who are you are two of the hardest questions for clients to answer.
Right.
I'm curious, what how do you advise? Like, what's the first step for somebody who comes to you and says, Monica, I don't actually think I know who I am, and I actually don't know what I want because I'm realizing that I've been unhappy forever. I've just been kind of stepping into what other people are tell me to do. What's the first thing that you do with them to help them even figure out what they like, what they don't like, who they are? What's the first thing that you do?
I love that question. Well, first of all, I would, I always say the first step is always like accept where you are, like
Hmm.
making an inventory, look around. Okay, now observe, write down what is the case, what do you do, and why do you do things,
Hmm.
and then just having clear where you come from, where you are right now. And then while they're doing this, it already comes to the mind, well, actually, I've never asked the question, why am I doing this? But now, why, when I'm doing this, I'm just thinking, like, I don't know. So, okay, observe, continue, do,
Hmm.
observe, observe, observe. That's the first thing. And then the second thing is, if it doesn't matter if it's a big thing or a small thing, someone calls you and says, do you want to go for a coffee and you don't know? Well, take your time. You don't have to rush for the answer.
So
Listen first inside and say then what is inside. If there is a no, then you can say, no, I'm sorry, but maybe tomorrow. If it's a yes, then you say yes. Now, if you don't know, then you say, I don't know. And that
yeah,
might sound weird, but I tell you something. It's not weird because it's the reality. You can say, well, I don't know, can I call you back in 10 minutes?
I love that.
And this is what I advise, like practice in every little thing.
So true.
Correct what
Yeah.
you want and not what you think others want from you.
That it's so true because I'm just kind of as you're talking, I'm going back to like when I kind of stepped into who I was. I remember very clearly like being on the phone with people and or texting because texting had just started. God, not to date myself, but I would always ask myself, do I really want to do this? Oh my God, but if I say no, are they going to be mad at me? Right? Am I going to be, or is it going to cause a problem? Like my brain would always automatically, oh no, you should probably do it. But then when I started checking in with myself, but do I really want to do the thing? I'd be like, no, I don't want to do it. So then I would get intentional with saying, I'm sorry, I can't. And I would brace, brace for impact. And then they wouldn't care. And I'd be like, wait a minute, I just actually stood in my truth for the first time and nobody cared.
Yes. Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing that you did that. And many people are not there yet. Many people they say, well, I can't. It's just like it doesn't work. And then I say, well, that's okay. And you don't do anything wrong. It's just that what you have learned for decades. And now you have
Programming.
to unlearn it. Well,
Mm.
there are different levels, like you and I know, like we have to work in a multidimensional approach, like working not only with the conscious, but also with the subconscious, like going there deep.
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. And I think it was easier for me to start doing that because again, having that science background, I'm like, well, let me do a clinical trial, right? Like, let me try it on. Wicked uncomfortable, wicked crazy, uncomfortable. But it's like anything, right? There's in psychology, they have something called the confidence competence loop. So that's the concept. Well, the concept of like in any given thing, if you have no mastery, you accordingly have no confidence, right? The only way to gain more mastery, of course, is to just do the thing. And the more mastery you have, the more confidence you have. So it's just a matter of like truly practice makes perfect, just doing it on rinse and repeat. But there's got to be intention, right? There's got to be like, I've got to break through this barrier. I've got to figure out who I am. So I'm going to put practical exercises on my plate or try to be mindful of pushing through that comfort on the regular. But
I loved it. And yes, it became then our comfort zone, this unhealthy comfort zone of being whatever we think others want. So,
yeah,
and then also when people come back, what I also advise them is when they say, yes, but I didn't say because I didn't want to hurt their feelings or I didn't want them to think this and that about me. And then my next question is, how do you know? What do you mean?
right.
How do you know what they think about you? And then, you know, what comes out is like, we can never know what we think. I mean, we think that other people think about this about us, and that becomes then in this field. It gets so ridiculous, but we all do it. We
We all,
always think, or we always think we know what other people think about us or how they feel or whatsoever, but we don't. We don't.
that was such an aha moment for me when I was going through coaching school and learning about cognitive distortions. I had never heard anything about that before, and reading all the different ones like mind reading or fortune telling or like catastrophizing, I was like, "Oh my god, I do this every single day." And it was crazy because to go back to our earlier point, I'm like, "Why do they not teach this in school?" Why am I in my 30s and learning about this? This would have helped my relationships. It would have helped me grow as a person. It would have, do you know what I mean? Like it,
Oh,
knowing
yes.
the natural filter of the brain, right? To like go to that place of, oh, they're gonna think this or that's gonna happen if I do this, or right. Like, um, sorry, that was just like an aha moment.
No, that was amazing.
Right, that I'm like, they should be teaching this in school because to your point, yeah, we filter ourselves so much based on stories that we tell ourselves that aren't real. Yeah.
So, and what do you tell clients? I mean, how do you even discover that they are trying to be someone they are not? Because in my experience, also some people even don't know. How is it? How is your experience with that with clients?
So in my intake with my clients, I spend 45 minutes just I kind of have like an Erin method and I kind of go through like a whole series of things. We identify their values first and foremost, because when I can get a handle on their values, I can help guide them more effectively. Um, and so that's like pivotal. And then from there, I kind of go into like their role type. I go into their conflict style. I go into like a little bit into MBTI. I go into like a lot of different things. I ask them about boundaries, their relationship with failure, their relationship with control. And then I do a very high level question and answer about, Were your parents together growing up? Do you have any siblings? How'd your siblings turn out? What was mom's conflict style? What was dad's conflict style? What were you known for? You know how parents do that? They're like, this is Jane. She's my dancer. And this is Tommy. He's my athlete. And this is Susie. She's my artist, right? I asked them where they fell in that. I asked them, what were you praised for? What were you punished for? So I get a really good idea because we know everything starts in childhood. I get a really good idea as to what their coping mechanisms are. Specifically, I look at the family dynamic in the household when they're growing up. For children who are shapeshifters, good girls, good boys, right? Typically, one of their values is peace or harmony, right? And so
Yes.
what happen is they develop a conflict, a coping mechanism of confluence. That's what I name it, confluence, right? And so what they'll do is typically, not always, they'll have one or two parents that um, are either unstable or just not consistent, right? And so what that child learns is that if I appease the parent above all else, I maintain the peace and make sure that parent is appeased and happy at all else, at the expense of my own identity, wants, needs, desires, because that way I in turn get my needs met. And that is their winning strategy. Except that, that little brain has no wisdom, but that subconscious locks right into that and says, oop, this is the way. And so then they carry that coping mechanism all the way up into adulthood. And that's when you see them coming to us where they're like, I don't know who I am. My relationships are garbage, right? Nothing seems to work. I don't feel like I'm close to anybody. And you're like, okay, well, we've uncovered its confluence, right? We've got to break that. And the way we break that through is a lot of intentionality. Obviously, there's lots of ways we can do it through an RTT session and then a lot of like practical neuroscience of like actively pushing through that comfort zone and exploring how to be more vulnerable and authentic. So that was very long winded, but that's kind of how it works.
I love it. I love it. No, that's so important also, because I think well, listeners also want to know, and I love also that you mentioned RTT because we
Mm.
both also trained in this fantastic method, like
Best.
to
Yeah.
go really to the root cause. And this is also what I meant before when I said diving deep. So I like also that you and I, we love RTT. Like we bring people into a very relaxed state. We investigate what's the root cause. And like you say, it always childhood. It's always the place that comes up. Something happened and we interpreted something. We built a belief, and that belief is the program that rules our life
Yeah.
until we replace it. And then we interrupt it. And
Yeah.
then we replace it with a new belief. And yeah, I love also how we then work with audios, giving people like an audio personalized and they listen to it for minimum 21 days or 30 days.
Mm.
And that's the deep work. But what I love, what you and I, what we have in common, how we work with people is this is great. But then also this 95% is subconscious. But then also how do I implement that? Or
Amen.
how do I practice, like you said, that? Like
And
applying
that's
see.
yes. And sidebar, so the listeners know RTT stands for rapid transformational therapy. If you don't know what it is, please Google it. It's life changing. So I just want to make sure that our audience knows what RTT stands for, right? Because you'll hear us say it again multiple times. Sure.
Oh, yes.
Did transformational therapy. But yes, that is why most traditional talk therapy doesn't work. To your point, it doesn't work because you have these aha moments in session and you're like, oh, that makes so much sense, right? But then if you don't have RTT, which most people are not trained in it, and you're just a regular run of the mill therapist, right? The client has this breakthrough. But if you're not giving them practical neuroscience exercises on the daily, it you don't break that programming, to your point.
Exactly. Yeah, you have to first interrupt this harmful neural pathway and then install a new one. And then make this the new normal. Like, how do you do that? Well, yeah, with this dive deep, but also with these practical steps afterwards, with the audio and other little things. Sometimes I also make my clients text me every single day, not because I want to read so much, or it's because it gives them structure. It gives them a point to know when I say they text me every day, they will, because otherwise I will be so annoying that they will. And what's the reason behind that is that becomes the new normal, like doing something on a regular basis for themselves to discover themselves, to give them this time. It's a minute or not even to text me something.
Yep. I love
And
that.
yeah, like building these new habits, these positive habits. And yeah, so many different ways, so many different things to to help them to get out this good girl or white sheep mentality.
Yeah. It's so you and I spoke a ways back a couple weeks ago about the good we call it the good girl trauma for the audience. You'll hear us do another one of just on good girl trauma. But it's amazing how like good little girls, good little boys, right? That's what society dictates. Those are the children that typically grow up with addictions, unhealthy coping mechanisms, lack of identity, lack of boundaries, people pleasing. It's incredible how suppression of your authentic self comes back around to bite you in adulthood. And it always does. It
Oh,
all,
yeah.
right? Nobody escapes. Um, just for the audience to know, how did you finally break out of it? What was
True.
your like aha moment? You're like, I need to stop being this version, this good girl.
Yeah. Well, as I said, when my first breakup
Right?
was when I was a teenager. The second thing what happened is I fell back to this good girl mentality. So yeah, we always come back to these deep seated programs.
Mhm.
And it brought this into all my relationships, even in my marriage. And I'm still married, and I'm happily married for almost 20 years now. But this is only the case because I broke free, because there was a time in my life when I didn't know who I was, where I was just so unhappy. Of course, my relationship also crumbled because I was unhappy. My husband was frustrated that I was unhappy. He was frustrated because of his things. No one spoke really. And I just knew it cannot continue like that. And on top of that, because I neglected myself all my life for everyone else, my body screamed then for the same love and attention. I screamed my whole life. And I was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease, Hashimoto's. So yeah, and when I had this diagnosis, I just needed to change something. My first step towards healing was yoga. Um, I connected with my body for the first time. I became even a yoga teacher, meditation instructor, because I was so fascinated with that, and it helped me a lot. The only thing, I was still run by these subconscious blocks and limitations. It was already a really important step to my healing, and yoga is still a very important part in my life. But the real breakthrough came then when I discovered rapid transformation therapy and coaching, because then we dove deep, and then I saw all these programming I was not aware of. I didn't even know I was people pleasing. I had no idea about all these things. But once we took this out and changed that, and then with coaching also, like making this new neural pathways my new normal, that was the game changer. That really changed my life. And of course, I then healed from inside out.
Yeah, love that. It is. It's all like once you take the blinders off, it's impossible to go back. Like it's impossible to go back.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
And even, and what I also want to say is, like, you don't have to go that far to have an autoimmune disease or any disease. Your body will react. if you don't do anything, but you don't have to go that far. So there is, it's always the right time to work on yourself. So yeah, it's
Absolutely.
good.
And I
But yeah, it is the
no, I was just gonna say you touched on something that I think we need to have a completely different podcast episode on, which is how the brain and the belief systems affect the body and your health. Because that is
oh yes, I noted down. This will be a really, really important podcast episode. Mhm. Yeah,
absolutely.
we will
So
do it.
yeah, I think that more than ever, we just need to have the black sheep of the world unite and really kind of wear that label as a badge of honor and to really kind of lean into that authenticity because we're just to your point, as a society, we're conditioned, we're programmed, if you will, to not be authentic. And I think this day and age, we need it more than ever. We need authenticity. I mean, we're just not, as this whole society, we're not healthy. We're not happy. We're not healthy. I mean, we're in an emotional health crisis. Um, and so I just think it's for those of you out there that have done the work, that are doing the work in the process, or maybe just recognize that they need to start doing the work. Bravo, bravo, because you are literally taking the first step towards tuning into who you were divinely created to be. And it's a lot of work and it's messy and it's ugly and it's raw. Monica's nodding because she's like, yep, so been there.
Yes, it's painful.
I fall. And also, as you go through this journey, not everybody's meant to come with you. There's that too, right? As you get,
Mm,
yeah. And sometimes that means family. Sometimes that means partners. Sometimes that means friends. Um, so it takes a lot of courage to go on this journey because it's
yes, but
hard.
it's one thing, right? I mean, how is it on the other side? You too went through these breakthrough, right, Derry? And
It's epic. It's freedom. It's total freedom. It's right because you're no longer shackled to other people's expectations, other people's opinions. You no longer filter yourself because you don't care, right? You just come out the other side and it's freedom. But also the people who are around you on the other side are your real people. That's your tribe. Your relationships are closer. There's more intimacy in your romantic relationship. It's just pure bliss on the other side. It's pure bliss. Hard as hell to get there, but you keep doing the steps and you get there. Like it's inevitable. You will end up there, right? But it's a journey, right?
it is, yeah. And I really, really encourage and hope that so many people are willing to do that because this is the thing. Sometimes we think the suffering where we are in right now is the normal, and then we avoid the change because that's how our brain is wired. Like, avoid everything that's new and come back to the familiar. And if the familiar is the suffering, even if it's not a like total um, placative suffering, but you have always this little sudden suffering where you just feel that's not your life, and you don't like what you're doing, and you don't feel love, and you cannot give love, and you have a lot of shame and guilt and all these packages. It's just we have to let this go, and we have to liberate ourselves and give ourselves this love and compassion. We are so used to give to everyone else, right?
Yeah.
And then becoming this authentic version we are meant to be. And then only then we can also do and enjoy what we are meant to do, what we are here for, right?
Yeah. It's so true. Yeah. And I think we should do another podcast too on avoidance and numbing, right? I mean, you said something really interesting and I'm mind blanking. I just mind blanked. It was really interesting and I forgot it. Yeah, but yes. So I remember. I remember what my point was. I can't remember what you said. So apologies. But there's a lot going on upstairs. There was a long time where I didn't think that I could ask for help. I thought there was something wrong with me. I would just sit in my shame. And right, I think what you said was suffering, something to the point of suffering is normal, feels normal.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I believed that. And I was too broken to even have the light bulb of like, you can ask for help. You're not the only person in the whole world that feels this way, right? There's lots of us that feel this way. Um, and I think that was like the biggest thing was like, I just felt like I was stuck, like I was all alone and I didn't ask for help. And that was a vulnerability block, right? 100%. But I didn't know what it was at the time. I was just, because right? Again, going back to childhood, because growing up, I had to just figure out things on my own, right? It wasn't safe. I learned it wasn't safe to ask questions. It wasn't safe to go to those places. So I just was like, well, I'll figure it out. I'll act as an independent agent or like an island. Um, that didn't work. It didn't work. So yeah, for anyone out there who's listening, who recognizes like, yeah, I feel like shit all the time. That's not normal. You don't need to find a guide, find a guide.
You just want more.
Absolutely. Your birthright is to be happy and live an amazing life. But I will tell you that an unexamined life is a life of pain. At some point, we all have to pull up the covers and look for the monsters under the bed. At some point, we have to, because if you don't, you're going to stay exactly where you are.
I love that analogy with looking under the bed. That means this is, but that's the thing, right? Same. I mean, if you don't face our fears, if you don't face what's underneath, well, guess what? We will just continue with our own struggle and we'll never solve it. First, we have to bring it up, face it, in order to let it go.
Yep.
That's it.
Yeah. And I'll leave you with this. We'll leave the audience with this because this is a pretty awesome thing that I learned the other day. Again, total nerd, but I'm here for it. Did you know that water buffalo don't actually like water? They hate water, which is ironic because they're a water buffalo. And they're the only animal on the planet that learned just intuitively that when a storm is coming, if they run straight into it, they will pass through it fastest rather than running away from it. So, although they hate water, they've learned when a storm comes, you want run right into that storm because that's the fastest way to come out the other side.
I love that. What a great analogy. Yes. And if you, yeah,
So, if you're a black sheep or a water buffalo, just go
to
straight through it.
once and what about it?
No more avoidance. And we will definitely be talking about avoidance and numbing in one of our next episodes because, all right, I'll do that.
Yes, I can't wait for our next episode. And I hope a lot of insights are for the audience there too. And if you want to connect with this amazing Erin here, then we let the links here
Or
in
Monica.
the yes, all our links where you can connect. Or maybe you have also some questions or a topic you want us to talk about. We are very happy and open for that. Just have it in the comments.
Yeah. As long as you're good filtered.
Yes.
See happening in this forum because, well, we're the black sheep.
Oh, yes, we are. Now we agree with that. Have a beautiful week.
Have a beautiful week, everyone.